Hello, everyone. My name is Dorian Etheridge, and I'm here with Sarah Walker. Okay, so Sarah, how long have you been involved with the athletics here?
So I've been here for a year and a half. I'm in my second year of grad school, so I started my first year.
And what is your position here?
I am a graduate assistant with University of Louisville Football Academic Services.
All right. Well, today I'm gonna be asking you a few questions about goals and goal setting. All right. So my first question is, why do you think it is important to set goals?
I think it's super important to set goals because at the end of the day, you can have all of these things that you want to achieve, but if you don't have the goals and the steps to get there, then you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage. So goals help you to reach those things that you want to achieve.
All right. What kind of people would you suggest short-term goals opposed to long-term goals?
I think short term goals can honestly help anybody. If you have a long term goal, you can break it into short term goals. But I would say definitely people that maybe have shorter attention spans or maybe people that are more busy, short term goals can help them break down their long term goals so they don't get too overwhelmed or get distracted by other things that are going on.
All right. How do you think short-term goals affect long-term goals?
I think short term goals are, like I said, crucial for long term goals because at the end of the day, to get to your long term goals, you need shorter steps to get there. So without short term goals, I don't think you can really get to long term goals, honestly.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, so for example, if I say that I want to graduate with my master's, that's a long term goal. So, in order to do that, there's lots of steps that I have to take. So, I have to go to class, I have to do my homework, I have to complete my internship or exit exam or whatever the requirements are. So, coming in last year, okay, I knew I wanted to get my master's, but now what are the steps or short term goals that I have to take to get there? So, like I said, now I can make sure that I'm doing what I need to do every day, every week, every month to get to that goal in 2 years.
Um, what do you think is important when choosing your goals?
I think that in choosing your goals, you should look at different areas of your life. So you can have a personal goal, you can have maybe like a social goal. Like, so for someone that might be introverted, they might want to say, by this time I want to meet this many new people or try these events or do things like that. I think academically you can have goals. So maybe a certain GPA, maybe making the honor roll, either the school or athletics. You can have athletic goals for football or whatever the sport is you're playing, but really I would say just categorize certain areas in your life and then you can have goals for all of those.
Now, you know how some people say like you should set your goals almost to you shoot for the stars.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what is your opinion on that? Setting your goals that you know you might not be able to attain, but you still go for it anyway.
I think that you should never limit yourself at the end of the day, but it's also important to be realistic. So when you're making a goal, you have to make sure that it's attainable. Um, and that might not be, it might be attainable in a longer period of time. So something that you say, okay, is unrealistic right now, down the road, excuse me, it might be more realistic. So I think it's important to dream big, but also think about your resources, think about what you're willing to put into it. So, kind of just balancing what you want with also reality.
Yeah, and of course, you know you have to have motivation to keep you going, like to achieve your goals. And how do you think someone's personality affects their motivation?
I think that some people are more intrinsically motivated, so they're going to stay on top of their goals. They're going to hold themselves accountable. Some people might need outside motivation as well. So I would say for that, make sure you have a group of people that are holding you accountable to help make sure that you're reaching your short term and your long term goals. Maybe writing things down, like keeping lists of what you're supposed to be doing, reminders, all of that. So I think as far as personality, it's important to know how you're motivated, and once you know that, you can know how to use that to reach your goals.
Now, like you were saying earlier, you know you're on you had your mindset you were gonna get your master's on. So
Mm-hmm.
what was your motivation throughout the whole thing?
I knew that in order to do what I want to do career wise, I have to have my master's. And so I knew that if I took a break after I graduated from college, I wasn't going to want to come back to school. So that's kind of what pushed me to go straight into grad school. And honestly, like I said, being able to do what I want to do is what pushes me through the classes, the ones that are interesting, the ones that are not interesting. It's kind of having that long term goal in mind and knowing that I have to take every step that I'm taking now to get there.
What type of advice would you have to someone that doesn't really have the desire to set goals, and like why would you want to get them to set goals? Like, what do you think is a good idea to set goals for them?
I think my first question, I would want to talk to them first of all, and my first question to them would be why they don't want to set goals, and see if maybe it was something that happened in the past to where they felt like they weren't able to reach their goals, or why is it that they're not wanting to do it? Because I think at the end of the day, everyone needs to set goals, and maybe sometimes the idea of setting goals can sound scary because you're thinking of, writing everything down and being super held accountable for it, which you should be held accountable, but at the end of the day, it can be as much or as little as you want. So I would kind of just talk to them and just show them that we could lay out steps so it doesn't seem as scary maybe to them. So yeah, just kind of see what's going on in their head.
As long as I can remember, I was like my teachers and everything. They were always like, you should set goals, and then like from middle school into high school, and now in college, you should always set goals. But it's like, what do you think the biggest problem is when you like have to set a goal, like getting those goals? So it's like, how would you get somebody to come up with their goals?
In terms of like the initial goal, you mean? Okay. I guess maybe them not being clear about what it is they want to do. I think you first have to have clarity about what it is you want to reach, and then you can come up with those steps. So that might be a big problem, I would think, with setting a goal, is just kind of knowing your end point. But once you figure that out, then I think it's easier to break it down from there.
All right. Now, for somebody that's interested in multiple things, like for instance, like an athlete, he would have goals in sports and of course in school. So it's like, what do you think is important? Like, do you think it's a good idea to set multiple goals?
I do. I think when you set multiple goals, like for example with athletics and academics, you have to make sure they don't conflict, right? So if you're saying that you want to get better at your sport, so you're going to spend, 12, 14 hours a day doing your sport, okay, that's unrealistic because that's going to conflict with your academic goals because you're not going to be able to go to class, get your work done, all the stuff you have to do. So I think it's definitely possible, and it's good to set goals in different areas, but you have to be careful and make sure those goals don't conflict with each other.
How do you think a person's circumstances can affect their goal setting?
Circumstances, like in what sense?
As far as like where they come from.
Okay.
And like what they came from.
I think honestly, depending on a person's background, it might even drive them to set higher goals, because sometimes maybe it's not just them that's depending on themselves. Maybe it's their family. Maybe if they have children, they can be depending on them as well. So I think sometimes someone's background and circumstances can push them to set goals and to make sure they're staying accountable for those goals. But on the flip side of that, maybe someone came from a situation where they didn't really have to set goals, where things were kind of done for them. And so that could inhibit them from being effective at goal setting because they're kind of used to things just falling together. So they might actually have to work a little bit harder at that.
All right. When somebody, of course you're around a lot of student athletes and all that stuff, and how do you help them with their goals?
I think the most important thing is figuring out what they want to do. You can't tell somebody what their goals should be because my goals are different from your goals, are different from everybody. So figuring it out, okay, is it that they want to become a lawyer? Is it that they want to become a teacher? Is it that they want to go pro? Different things, everyone's going to have a different goal. So what I try to do is figure out what each person wants to do and kind of help them with steps to go about that, helping them, like I said, take the long-term goal and break it down into shorter-term goals and steps. And then if they want me to be that person and hold them accountable, I can do that. If they want to pick a teammate, a coach, another advisor, whoever, then kind of making sure they have a support system as well.
This is for you. Have you ever like had an instance where there was a goal you had your mind set on and you end up not achieving it?
Yeah, well, okay. So my process of getting into grad school, so let me back up. When I applied to college, I only applied to 4 schools, and I ended up getting into all the schools I applied to, which was great. But because of that, I didn't really know what it was like to be stressed out about, the next step of school. So when I applied to grad school, I did a lot of research, and I knew what programs I wanted to get into, and I picked 3 schools to apply to. and the first two that I heard back from, I didn't get in. And so at that point, I was unsure if my goal of going straight from college to grad school was gonna happen or not, even though I felt like I took the steps necessary. You know, I turned in my applications, I had the GPA, the letters, all that. So thankfully it worked out where I got in the last school, but it kind of felt like my goal wasn't gonna get achieved because I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to come straight to grad school. So all that to say, even sometimes when you take the steps and the short-term goals and do different things, it's not saying that you're always going to achieve that thing, but you know that you did what you could to work towards it, and then at that point you can regroup and keep going.
Of course, for someone in college, because you know a lot of college students going to be watching this video, would you think it would be best to focus on your short-term goals now or like your long-term goals?
I would say definitely in college short-term goals. It's easy to get fixated on like what you want to do in the long term, and sometimes that can be stressful, and you can worry and think about, you know, oh, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But definitely for college, I would say short term, like take it every day. You know, what can I do today? What can I get done? What can I get accomplished? And that way, if you do it that the right way and you're fulfilling all those short term goals, then you're gonna be, you know, close to your long term goals by the time you get to your junior senior year or graduate.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.